Stop using crucian carp fishing methods for bream. Master these tips, and your hookup rate will double. Bream, whether steamed or pan-fried, is affordable and a delicious dish on ordinary people's dining tables. In the fishing community, bream is also quite popular, and many anglers love to fish for it. Why is that? Because bream like to move in groups and specifically look for food in clean waters. Moreover, they grow fast and have strong adaptability. Bream mainly feed on aquatic plants, but they also don't mind plankton, vegetable leaves, and other plants. Generally, starting from April, bream enter a feeding spree mode, which lasts until November, especially from June to October, when their appetite is surprisingly large. So bream are relatively easy to catch in summer. However, to catch bream well, you still need to master some skills. 1. Understand their habits. The most obvious feature of bream is their laterally flattened body, which allows them to swim very fast in water. At the slightest movement, they will slip away without a trace, so you need to keep quiet while fishing. Their mouths are small and slightly downward facing, unlike crucian carp, whose upward-facing mouths make them easier to catch. When eating bait, they always like to circle around the bait first, rub it with their mouths, and try several times before daring to bite, which is completely different from the fierce and aggressive biting of whitebait. The habit of bream liking to move in groups has both advantages and disadvantages. The advantage is that once a group comes, you can keep catching them. The disadvantage is that if you scare the school, you may not wait for the next group for an hour or two. 2. Equipment selection. The fishing rod doesn't need to be too long. 3.6 meters to 4.5 meters is the most suitable. Although bream swim fast, they usually stay in the middle and lower layers not far from the shore, and a long rod will make it difficult to lift the rod quickly. Choose a slightly softer rod. A medium action one is fine. Their mouths are fragile, and a stiff rod is easy to tear their mouths, causing the fish to escape. For the fishing line, the main line should be 0.8 to 1.2 pounds, and the sub-line should be 0.4 to 0.6 pounds. Don't worry that the thin line can't hold the fish. Generally, this line is completely sufficient for fish weighing 1 or 2 catties. The key is that the thin line won't block the mouth, so that the small mouth of the bream can easily suck in the bait. The fish hook must be small. Size 4 or 5 sleeve hooks are the best. Izini hooks are not suitable because their hook gaps are too wide, and the small mouth of bream can't swallow them. The hook tip should be sharp because their lips are thin, and a slightly blunt hook can't penetrate. 3. Bait preparation for nesting. When making a nest, you need to use the scattered bait approach, not the sinking type like wine-soaked rice. Experienced anglers mix bran with crushed corn, add some millet soaked in brown sugar water, moisten it, and knead it into balls to throw in. This way, the nest bait will slowly disperse when it enters the water, floating down like rain. Bream like to chase this kind of dynamic bait, but this trick doesn't work well for crucian carp. You can also add some crushed green vegetable leaves and tender grass stems to the nest bait. Bream are omnivorous but prefer vegetarian food more than crucian carp. Throwing in these natural things has a better effect on gathering fish than pure commercial bait. When making a nest, you should put in a small amount frequently to keep the bait floating in the nest. For bait preparation. For commercial bait, choose one with fast atomization. When preparing the bait, add a little more water to make the bait slightly soft, as long as it can be normally hooked. If using corn, use tender corn. When hooking, only hook half of the corn kernel, exposing the hook tip. Otherwise, with its small mouth, it can't swallow the hook fully loaded with corn. If using earthworms, choose thin ones. When hooking, leave half of them to twist in the water, which can attract the attention of bream. This trick is much more effective for catching bream than for catching crucian carp. 5 key points of fishing methods. When choosing a fishing spot, look for cool places with tree shade and the edges of aquatic plants, not the middle of dense aquatic plants, but the open water area next to the aquatic plants. Bream swim fast and need space to move, which is different from crucian carp, which like to get into piles of aquatic plants. The float adjustment should be sensitive, but not as sensitive as when fishing for crucian carp. Adjust to 4 meshes and fish 2 meshes, and the subline should be short, within 20 centimeters. Because bream often feed in the middle layer, a short subline allows the bait to reach the target faster and can timely reflect their action of rubbing the bait. Watching the float is crucial. When bream eat the bait, the float will first gently move up and down 2 or 3 times. This is them rubbing the bait with their mouths to test it. Don't lift the rod. Wait until you see the float suddenly move horizontally or sink obliquely, then lifting the rod will surely hook the fish. This is completely different from the float movements of crucian carp, floating up, and whitebait, pulling the float down sharply. When lifting the rod, gently shake your wrist, don't lift it forcefully. Their mouths are fragile, and too much force can easily cause the hook to come off. Just use a little force to pierce the hook, then quickly pull the fish out of the water to prevent it from struggling in the water and scaring the fish school. In general, catching bream is not an easy task. It requires skills and experience accumulation. You still need to practice more and try different methods to find the most suitable one for yourself. It is hoped that the above experience can help you. so that you can have a full harvest when fishing for bream and go home happily every time. Author profile: I am a self-media blogger who loves fishing and is good at sharing. Follow me, and we will exchange fishing skills and discuss every bit of angler's wild fishing. Give a like, collect, and follow to avoid missing the next update.